Any other big mistakes that sellers make come to mind?
Some sellers are making mistakes like not getting the home ready for sale from a presentation perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That's often referred to as staging. Maybe it's the minor cosmetics like painting and things that likely need to be done to landscaping, cleaning the place up, decluttering, those type of things. I think if you look at something like decluttering or cleaning or painting, the return on investment for those for executing on that punch list, let's call it, of things that we often provide to the seller to do to get the house ready. Some sellers, for whatever reason, and it's in some cases it's just they just don't want to do it. In other cases they can't do it, and we work with whatever it is. However, when you don't execute that list of things, the value return is so high. From my perspective, I can't say what other agents do, but from my perspective, we're giving you a list of things that I know are going to return on investment. You're not wasting your time. Mm-hmm. You're sometimes 10xing the investment of, you spend $1,000 and it's $10,000 in return easily. I mean,
on something as simple as a paint job.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Paint, decluttering, cleaning, because even if you're hiring someone to do it, and that's the assumption I'm making, we're here in Greenwich and a lot of the other high-end towns, they're not necessarily doing this work themselves. Yeah. They're getting someone to come in and help. And, even in those scenarios, and that's the way I'm looking at it, you're often with the things that we're giving you are 10xing. And the other factor is that, and it might even be more than that. Some of these things, could be a few $100s worth of your cleaner, really doing a deep clean on the house, tells that buyer, sends a message to the buyer, something different about that house. It sends a subconscious, if not conscious, a message to that buyer that the home was taken care of.
Yeah.
And that's what people want to buy. And that's what people, especially in these higher end towns, they want to buy something that is of good quality. You don't walk into the Range Rover dealer and buy the dirty Range Rover on the you don't want it. Yeah. You're like, you don't even look at it. You want the nice one, the clean one that's prepped on the floor, ready to go. It's got maintenance records, all of that. That's the same thing that a buyer is looking for. And so when you don't do these basic things, the value drop on the house is so significant, but maybe even worse, you're also you're burning through showings. I mean, you could do all the marketing in the world, get the people to the home and do 2-3 times the showings on these homes to get an offer that if you had the house cleaned and prepped, you're motivating more buyers to, decide that's the house that they want because they see it as a place that was taken care of.
Yeah. And someone may think like, they're not buying my mess. Like, why does that make a difference? Right. But it's all about the first impression, essentially. Right.
You often can't see it. When you live in the house, you don't see some of the things sometimes. Yeah. What the funny thing is when every time someone invites me to their house for a listing appointment, inevitably they'll say, I'm so sorry, it's a mess. The reality is we all live a normal way. And very few of us are able to live. I've seen a handful of people. Usually they have, some type of staff that's pretty regular, like, 3, 4, 5 times a week, whatever. That's coming in and keeping the place like that. But a lot of us don't live like that. And the reality is that mess just happens. Yeah. And it's not a big deal. Yeah. But when we put a house on the market, we can't look like that. Yeah. It's funny. You almost have to overcompensate for the perfection, and to create that picture in the buyer's mind that, wow, it's almost like it's the life they aspire to be. Yes. Is really what we're sort of creating.
Versus reality.
Yeah.
Which is all clutter.
Yeah. Really
interesting.
Well, the funny thing is too, then I sell those houses and I go back into them and they never look like they were when we were staying. Nobody can achieve that, but that's okay. That's marketing at its best.
That's interesting that I didn't realize that paint, such a simple renovation, that's probably the wrong term to use, could return so much. Because like when I think of like preparing your house for market, I think of overhauls. I didn't realize something as simple as paint can make that big of a difference.
Yeah, definitely.
Now let me ask you something. I'm sure a lot of people that are watching this take good care of their houses.
Yeah, for us.
And they're probably not, they probably don't have chipping paint in certain rooms or whatever.
Yeah.
So even if your paint job is in good condition, is it still important to repaint and to like have like neutral colors or something?
Yeah. If the colors are wild, I would say outside of kids' bedrooms,
outside of kids' bedrooms.
Yeah, they're easy to repaint, and plus, we're usually not going to have you break your kid, your boy's room down so you can take the blue to a neutral color.
Yeah.
So and also it's not the main part of the home, and so I think buyers aren't so concerned. There's certain spaces that we're focused on when I come and see a home.
Okay.
And we really have to get certain things right. I think most buyers are flexible enough to see, a playroom or a kid's room or something like that and go, I don't have any girls, but we can just paint the room.
Yeah.
We don't want the pink, but
I see.
That's not going to stop me from buying the house. Everything else is good. So we don't worry about some spaces. It's more about focusing on the right ones. If you had a bold yellow in a kitchen, probably need to, bump that down.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
yeah,
it's just going to devalue the whole kitchen in the buyer's mind. They're going to see that ridiculous, that $1,500 it took you to paint that kitchen. They're going to see that as the kitchen needs to be renovated.
Yeah.
It's going to be overcompensated. Oftentimes buyers sort of they amplify problems oftentimes into bigger issues than they really are. We want to try to make, if we can cosmetically fix the house so that they don't see it from that perspective, clearly
don't even let their minds go in that direction.
Yeah, and realize too, in Greenwich here, we're dealing with, and it really all of the premium towns here in the Gold Coast, we're dealing with a client who is busy. They oftentimes don't have any real construction experience outside of managing contractors. And in many cases, we're getting people from the city who rented. This is their first home. And so
I'm sure we see a lot of that in Greenwich.
Yeah. You know what? The funny thing is too, with my construction background before I was a realtor, oftentimes I'll be encouraging people to not see certain things as a major problem when they're buying a house so that they can really expand their options and, not where they would have walked in, but not, it's not like a lot of realtors have that construction knowledge. So they're coming through with their buyer agent who doesn't necessarily, that's not a criteria for most buyer agents. And they can't necessarily communicate or didn't even know enough to say, like, this is an easy fix. Yeah. Here's how you address this. Yeah. Here's how I would do that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you have your construction background, and we had talked about this a bit earlier with one of our clients where there was a wall that had to be taken down.
Yeah.
And I have no knowledge of construction. I can barely put something together with the instructions right in front of me.
Yeah.
To me, taking a wall down seems like a massive project. And you were actually telling me, no, it's actually not really that big a deal compared to other types of renovations. It's how much those could cost.
Yeah. In the particular case that we were talking about, there was a master bathroom, and they were planning already on full gut renovating that master bathroom. And from that perspective, opening a wall up, even if the wall was structural, which is what had to be done, the master had to be entered from a different way to make the arrangement work. And the buyer, unfortunately, to the best of my ability, I tried my best to communicate that it was relatively simple. But again, you have a first-time buyer in that particular scenario willing to do renovation, but really not knowing. And this is really true of the majority of clients that we have coming into these towns. I mean, they have the money to buy a $2-3 million house. They're clearly not, doing construction, on their weekends.
Yeah.
So they, trying to explain it can be a challenge, even with my skill set. And point being is they did end up, unfortunately, turning that house down. I think they realized after the fact maybe that they should have gone after it. But yeah, I think that particular move that they were looking to make was probably about maybe a $5,000 addition to if it was structural, like in a worst case scenario where beams had to be put in. And yeah, that would have been a great house for that particular client. But yeah, they couldn't see that was such a small detail, $5,000. It's probably $100,000 bathroom. What's $5,000 more to open up the wall?
Wow.